Hello and welcome to my Allo Mother podcast. I'm your host, Celeste Smith. This podcast is focused on educating and helping mothers navigate our fast-moving and transitory lifestyle, looking through the lens of anthropology. I am a maternal anthropologist on a mission to support mothers around the world because, let's face it, we weren't meant to do this alone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Allo Mother podcast. I'm so excited to have you meet my friend Krishelle. We go back to high school, and I feel like we had a pretty idyllic high school, experience. We both did band, but Krishelle, we also ran some cross country together. But Krishelle also did track and lots of sports, so I just enjoyed watching her do that. And but she has a very contagious optimism for life and laugh. So it was, anyway, it's just so great to have you on the podcast today, Krishelle.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. It's gonna be fun.
Yes. So well, let's just dive right in. Go ahead and introduce your family and your journey so far through your husband's career.
Okay, so I have three little boys, and they are so much fun, you guys. Um, Being a boy mom is all it's cracked up to be, but they are very energetic, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I have a 7-year-old, and I have a 5-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old. So they're all pretty close together, and they're just literally so much fun. And my husband is a pharmacist, so it's funny, we met after he had finished his degree at the U, and he decided to go on and get further education and go into pharmacy. And so before we started, we're like, okay, he was like, I don't want any kids while we're in medical school or pharmacy school. Like,
Yeah.
I just, that's going to be too much. And and the Lord had different plans for us, and we ended up with two kids during his
Wow.
pharmacy school. And he did an advanced, or not an advanced, an accelerated program.
Okay.
So he a 4-year pharmacy school, it was a 3-year pharmacy school. And so
Wow.
they would do a course every 2 weeks, and then they'd have a final like every 2 weeks. So it was pretty intense. Yes, and it makes me laugh because there are a lot of doctors who are like, oh, pharmacology was like the worst class.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was doing that, and he was having a pharmacology final, essentially every 2 weeks. So that was a little bit crazy.
Wow.
Yes, it was, but I was working full time as well. I worked as a teacher, an eighth grade history teacher. For those, I did 4 years while he was in school, and when we had it um, before we moved. Anyway, so he did school, and that was just a crazy experience for us. We said we're not going to have any kids, and somehow we ended up with two kids.
Wow.
The timing is, I don't know, timing is kind of a funny thing, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So your degree is it secondary education?
So, yeah, I am kind of a weird case. I actually got a degree in political science,
Oh,
and then I was kind of like, what do I do with this?
yeah.
Um, and so, and I had always kind of wanted to be a teacher. Um, but I just had done political science first because I also really loved that. And
Yeah.
then, so I decided like I want to actually teach. And so I went back and got my master's in education.
Oh,
And so that allowed me to teach secondary. So I could teach, yeah, anywhere from 6th to 12th grade.
oh, wow. Yep. So I totally missed that as I followed your journey. That is so great. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
were you living around family when he was in pharmacy school? I don't remember where he did pharmacy school.
Yes, we were. And we would not have survived without help, right? Which is what this podcast is all about. It's just that help with kids. So, when I found out that I was pregnant with my first, I was really stressed because he he was working during pharmacy school as well, but
Oh,
not enough to support our family.
yeah.
And so, kind of stressed about putting my kid in daycare. And I know moms do that and it works out great, but he would only be 6 weeks old going to this daycare. And that stressed me out. He
Yeah.
didn't have a, he wouldn't have a good immune system and stuff. And so my mom actually was, my youngest brother was out of the house and my mom was like, I think I'm going to find a job. And I'm like, no, please, like watch our kid and we'll pay you to watch him. And obviously we didn't pay her very much because she's so sweet.
Oh,
but but and but like we couldn't have done it without her. Like it was just such a relief to know that like my child was with someone that I trusted that was going to love them and take care of them. And then when my second came along, she watched him for a few months before I ended up being able to quit
oh,
and move on. So yeah, she was a huge help.
wow. So that really clicked. So how were you able to um kind of get your needs met and your first baby's needs met with her? Like, how was that communication? What are your tips about about that?
Yes. Um, so it made it really easy that she was my mom, but with anyone going through like any type of medical school or any type of school and having to send your kid to someone that's not you, that's hard. It takes a huge leap of faith. You have to really trust them. And also I think like you were saying, the communication is really key. Um, because there were some days that were really hard. And I think that um I did that like you want to meet everyone's needs. But there are also times I'm sure with your husband going through med school, that you just survive.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of trying to take each day as it comes because my youngest started to get a little bit of separation anxiety. And that
Oh,
was so hard. There were days that I had to leave him crying and I was like,
yeah.
oh, how do I do this as a mom? Like that is just so hard. But I also take care of my family. And so I think there are those times that you just take those days one at a time and know that like it's going to be okay. And he would settle down and he loved my mom. I think it's really important to find a good caregiver, someone that you trust, that your child trusts, whoever that may be, because I knew that like even though he didn't want me to leave, that at the end of the day, like he was gonna be fine and safe and happy. And I was gonna it just kind of makes it even sweeter when you come home to see him
Yeah.
and then you appreciate that time that you have with them more. So just finding someone that you trust, that they trust, and that really has your child's best interest at heart.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge deal, and that's so lucky that you kind of got to give your kids that one-on-one situation,
Yes.
and kind of that for like the first allo mother that the first degree allo mother would be a grandmother, which is perfect because they already love you and they really love their grandkids. So that was a good
Yes. Yeah,
situation.
we got super lucky with that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So. I mean, I know you had kind of childcare while you were working. And then how was your schedule like? How did you kind of manage him being gone still? I'm sure he was kind of studying late. And how did you kind of manage your
Yeah.
family dynamic with all that?
It's really hard to juggle. I feel like um, life in general, right? Like for everyone, not just like if you're in school, like, because you have to be able to really schedule your time, right? Like you have to be purposeful in your time
Yeah.
when your husband is gone a lot or you're gone a lot. There were times where, because you're right, he studied a lot on top of school. You have to be able to study and you want to do well and make sure that it's worth it for you to be in pharmacy school or whatever type
Yeah.
of school that your husband's in. And so we really had to be purposeful and it was tricky because for a while my son didn't sleep through the night for a long time,
Oh,
right? So I was up at night and there were a couple times where I slept through my prep period and I was like, I can't make it through this day like teaching without like this 45-minute nap. There were a couple times I slept in my car. And then I
oh,
had to make up for that work or that prep, right? I still had to prep, but just kind of have to be very purposeful in it. And so it was hard finding time for my husband because he also Saturdays were very important for me, right? I could spend all
Oh,
day with my kids. But I also had to do laundry and grocery shopping and all those other things. And my husband worked on Saturdays as well too. So we really just had Sundays, right? And
yeah.
so you realize, which is kind of cool, you realize how important it is to make time, but also when you have time, you just treasure it a little bit more, right? You get a little more careless if you have all the time in the world with your family, but we
Yeah.
really just tried to make sure that that time was meaningful when we got it. So it's tricky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love that. That's really how I felt. My husband wasn't able to work outside of his master's or medical school. But because yeah, even his Saturdays were full, of studying. Um, but
Yes.
it made Sundays really special because for years he decided well, I think it was fourth grade or something. He decided like I'm not gonna do homework on Sundays, ever.
Uh-huh.
So he followed that pattern up until, all the way through all this schooling. Um, and so it was like I knew for sure like he wasn't gonna work, he wasn't gonna think about homework, and it was our time of like we just really treasured Sundays. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
but as we continued, we kind of were able to make little, traditions for Sundays to make it even more special. But I felt like when we got so cornered with our time, I kind of got to a point, I don't remember when, I really don't, but in our schooling, but I got to a time where I was like, okay, in order to like feel good, I need a few things. And I kind of realized it was like, I just need a date with my husband once in a while. Like, I just had to have these anchors of like things to look forward to,
Yeah.
even though like I couldn't commit to one date a week ever. But we still don't really, we
I
try.
know.
But
Yeah.
but like I just kind of had these little anchors. It was like, even if we have a date set up in 3 weeks, or if I have a swap with another family for a play date so I can breathe for a minute, not have my kids with me. I kind of
Yeah.
I fell into those anchors. Did you have any type of anchor that kind of helped you through pharmacy school when it was so busy?
Yes, absolutely. So family dinners, like I will
Oh,
say that to me, that is something that is so important and I cannot advocate enough. Um, I feel like it's very crazy and I have younger kids, so it's a lot easier for me at this point in time.
yeah.
I know as they get to be teenagers, like it's kind of crazy, but I really hope that like it always stays that important. Like I'm a huge, huge advocate of like sitting down with your family at the end of the day. And we always share like our favorite part of the day and something that
Nice.
we're grateful for. And we try and just like bring it back to like, this is family time. And I recently bought like one of those little like basket tray things and our phones go in the middle.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and I just feel like that has been a huge anchor for me. And I can't like advocate that enough because as much as like whole thing, there's something very special about letting each child talk at dinner, right?
Oh,
Like my
yeah.
oldest, how was your day? Like what was your favorite part of the day? And then being able to share with us and create that safe space for family is so, so, so important. And so that was really big for me. Another one that I'm thinking about is we talked about how we had done cross country a little bit.
Yeah.
I am so much better when I exercise. And so
Yes.
I would say that this is huge is like exercising and it doesn't have to be every day. You don't have to commit to like your date night doesn't have to be once a week, you know,
Yeah.
but make time to like exercise and have time for yourself because it's hard to do that as a mom. We always want to put everyone else's priorities first. But I really have realized that like sometimes the way for me to be a best mom is like to take my shower, take 5 minutes
Yeah.
and then I can come out and I can say, okay, like I am now ready to be a mom. Where beforehand I just felt gross or yucky and I just was projecting that on my kids. And it's crazy what like a 10-minute shower can
Yeah.
do for you, right?
Life changing.
I know. And it's so funny because that should just be so non like thought process, you just
Yeah.
do it. But sometimes you really do have to make time for that when you're busy, when you're working, when your husband's working. And it's okay for the kids to watch a 10-minute show while you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and be a good mom and read those books or do the puzzles or whatever it is that they are doing, and it's going to be way more beneficial. So take your showers, do your exercise.
Yes. I love that. I mean, quite a few years ago, I had a friend start to become kind of a coach. I mean, she was kind of building that and she kind of realized that she had to kind of communicate it to her kids. And so sometimes if they were just wanting things, a lot of things, and she really just needed to shower or eat herself or, things like that,
Uh-huh.
she started saying like, mommy's important too. So I'm going to help you, but I need to, eat really quick, or I need to take a shower, or I need to, you know, exercise on, the treadmill or something, and then I'll help you too. And then she kind of noticed that her kids understood, like, oh, mom's not just going to immediately fulfill all my needs right now. Sometimes she needs to, like, she's important too.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of started, taking care of her in that way, like, oh, yeah, you need your time for a minute too.
Yeah, and I love that. I have never heard that before, but I think that is pretty powerful. And I think with the kids from a young age to like respect and love their mom too.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to teach them that. It's sometimes hard because I mean, it kind of makes me laugh when I'm like, okay, I'm handing you something, and what do you need to tell me? Like you need
Yeah.
to say thank you. But you have to really teach your kids that. So that's pretty powerful. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good tip. So I do use that when I remember.
Yes.
I'm important too. Yeah, I felt like with our homeschool mornings sometimes I realized I had to have some give and take. Like if I knew that if we just like ate breakfast, had our scripture study, had a little, anyway, our homeschool morning, if I could give that, then I had a limit. And then I realized that if I just exercised by, I don't know, I mean, I wish I could say I wake up at 5 a.m. I still don't, so I'm still working for
Yeah, me
that.
neither.
But yeah, by 9 or 9:30, because I mean, I'm saying when they were really little, like our homeschool morning was, 10 minutes. Um, but yeah, I was like at 9 or 9:30, like that's my time to exercise. And I didn't mind if they were running around me or climbing on me. That was just my time that I was gonna exercise. I did a lot of Pilates or whatever, yoga. So and then when I was able to exercise, then I could give to them again. And I just realized I had to do kind of that give and take our day. And I could do it if I just took it like
Yes.
one block at a time. I could give after I helped myself too.
Yes, totally. Totally agree with that.
And so for someone or a couple, I should say, that is just going to start pharmacy school maybe this year, what is some advice that maybe you wish you would have gotten or that you would give your pre-pharmacy school self?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like there's like a million things that kind of like pop into your head with that.
Yeah.
Um, so honestly, I would say that the Lord needs to be part of it, right? Like that is something that I am like, you need to prioritize for sure. And the Lord needs to come first. Like you said, Him taking Sundays off. I think there's
Oh,
something very important about resting your body and your mind.
yeah.
And I think when we do that, we allow um, for just that rest, right? And we allow time for us to soak in like everything that we need to. And so um, I think just making sure that like your family is your priority. And of course, that doesn't always mean that you are with them. Like if you're
Yeah.
studying or you're doing things like that, then that is prioritizing your family. And that's an important thing to do. Um, so I would definitely say that that is just really important, being aware. And I would have like checkpoints with yourself where you sit
Mm.
down. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just, carving out a time and saying, like, where are my priorities? Am I doing what I need to do? And then being okay if your house is messy. Being okay if you have clean clothes but not folded.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's okay, to let some of those things go, right? Like even still to stay at home mom, I can't stay up on laundry, like
Yeah.
it's a lot. And then just relying on those people. This might be I might be going just a little bit rogue. So feel free to edit this if you want to.
Oh, you're
But I had kind of an opposite experience. from all of this with COVID. Like I kind of felt like COVID was like a round two of medical school for me because my husband got out of medical school in 2019 and we had like a year of getting licenses and like all of that stuff and him working and
Uh-huh.
then COVID hit and we had moved to California at that point.
Oh,
And so yeah, and so California was very, very, very strict in their lockdown procedures and all of that
yeah.
stuff. And so when everyone was at home for 6 weeks, working on their bodies, my husband was gone, triple the amount of time
Oh,
because
oh,
he was on that front line of healthcare workers, right? So he was
oh my goodness.
figuring out COVID testing because he worked at CVS, and so they were where they could come through and do COVID testing and they
Mm,
had COVID vaccines that were coming out that they had to figure out and administer and all of this stuff. So he was really on that. He was one of those frontline workers during that time. And we also had we have a type 1 diabetic. My 7-year-old is a diabetic, and he was diagnosed when he was 3. So in 2020, and I had a new baby in 2021. So I was pregnant in 2020, and like else, it was like a very, very difficult time. And I was very, very, very isolated during that time
yeah.
because during COVID, people would hang out with their family, but that's pretty much it, especially in California. And so, and then we moved during COVID in California as well. So we left the few friends we had behind and I had no family, no friends. My husband was gone all the time. And so it was a kind of just this opposite experience for me than everything we're talking about of the All Mother. Sorry, I'm pronouncing that so wrong. That's my disclaimer. But like just that opposite experience where I had no support and kind of the mental drain that takes on you, right? I was figuring out this how to deal with diabetes because I didn't have any experience with that. I had a baby and postpartum and my husband was working all these hours and it was just a lot. And so I think just talking about this now is like finding your support system. I've come to realize how important that is
Oh,
and how and I'm grateful for you doing this podcast, right? Because I think that that's what this is all about is finding that good support system. Now you fast forward a couple years and luckily he's done with pharmacy school. So I would say that to anyone just starting. Like it does
oh,
end. It
yes,
is like a
yes.
light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yep.
There's hope. But like I have friends now and family is closer and I just feel like I can breathe. Right. And so that is something that I would say is really important is like there's hope. It does end. And you just survive. Like you just survive, but you do that with good people. Like if you don't have a good support system before you start, you
Oh,
definitely want to start looking. If you're not close to family, find some good friends that can help you. So that was kind of a roundabout and long experience. So hopefully that is helpful, or you can edit it out. But
no, that was perfect. Yeah, COVID was at COVID hit at the end of our first year of medical school. So that was,
yes.
yeah, very, very interesting experience. But that would be quite wild that for that time you were in California away from family at this, yeah, and we were in Oregon, so yeah, very strict for a couple of years. You know,
Yes,
and
yes.
scary.
And
So
you probably know too, like I relied a lot on Zoom or FaceTime. I'd be like, well,
right.
which sister am I calling today? Like, like you still like people need people. They need that human interaction. It's really important for moms, especially. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember in New York City, like anyway, the things we did, like we were not it would have taken, well, by the time we left New York City, we were kind of like, oh, okay, we get this New Yorker thing. But I mean, it's just a big transition because that lifestyle is totally like opposite of what I grew up with. But anyway, so it's kind of like laughable, the things that
yeah.
I did. Um, anyway,
Yeah.
and yeah, my son he didn't sleep till he was 4. So anyway,
Oh,
I was like sleep deprived and my husband was home at 11 p.m. It was fine. So, but I would like when I called my
yeah.
sister, like I would start telling her about my day and maybe the things the kids said or what I had to do, and I would just start laughing because my life was so ridiculous. But when I talked to her, like I was
Yes.
able to release though that stress, and I just laughed, and she laughed, and it like after I would talk to my sister, once I finally called them, I have two, but once I finally called
Uh-huh.
a sister, I was like, oh, okay, I can keep going now. Like there's something about that. And then I was in New York, and they were in Utah, obviously very far away. But those little
Yes.
conversations like made everything better.
Yeah, and that laughter. I think that laughter too. I would totally say that. Like, make time for fun. Like, it's crazy what like doing something fun and laughing can do for you. I love that. That's totally true.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have, it's like I forget these things, but yeah, if you don't have a break in sight, or if you're far from family, it's like when I remember to turn on some music and be silly with the kids, that's almost like a music album mother. Like it's not a person, but it's like just something that's not you entertaining, and it's like you can kind of be silly and do something fun. And though, yeah, that laughter is because I think like pharmacy school and medical school, law school, whatever school it is, it can feel like it literally will never end. Like every day is so long
Oh,
and you can see
yes.
the tests coming and the boards and you're just like, is this ever? I don't think this is ever. It's just long. Like it's another bachelor's, another
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
Yes. Yeah.
You're like,
Totally agree. Oh, and you're speaking my language with music. Music is so powerful. Like, find your music.
yeah, join a choir, whatever it takes. You can do radio, your
Yes. You don't want
iPad
me
or
joining a choir is the last. Some people could probably take that advice, but I won't.
yeah, whatever kind of music will help. That's good. No, it's true. Oh, thanks for your advice. That is awesome. Well, I love some question I love to ask at the very end is if an owl mother just came to your door tomorrow morning and knocked on your door and said, "What can I do?" or "What can I give you?" What would you request?
Oh, that is such a fun question. I love that. I think that I would request that they play with my kids with me. That maybe sounds just a little bit weird. Um, but I feel like I love playing with my kids, but sometimes it's just easier to play with another like adult there too. I know that sounds so
Yeah.
silly, but like when my husband and I play with our kids, it's so much fun. But sometimes I have a hard time like getting down enough on their level to like play their games or their games get the
Yeah.
same. And so it's always fun to have someone else's like imagination come play with you. And kind of bring your personality out to the surface, like sometimes you
Oh,
kind of get in the playing like I'm cleaning and also playing type games.
yeah.
But so that's kind of I like that question though. I'm gonna think about that a little bit more too.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, sometimes it takes me a while to think of like what do I really need? And I feel like even just my errands stack up. It's so weird. I guess I keep
Oh
some
yeah.
errands like in the back of my mind because I don't want to take all my kids to like each location. Anyway, I don't know. But like when I finally
Yes.
get a break, like I have to do errands first and then I can do what I actually want to do.
Yes. Or
Because
like even take the kids while you're on the phone, right? Because they're
yeah.
fine and then you get on the phone. All right, every mom knows that as soon as you like try and do something where you're talking to someone else, they need you like nonstop.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one too.
That,
Errands and
yeah.
phone calls, all those phone calls you have to make.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh yeah, and this with really quick playing with kids. I struggle too, and we've started doing like a Friday night game night where we actually have collected so many games. So anyway, we really sit down and do as a family like we do Legos or or like play a board games, and it's been really fun. But you have to schedule it. That's what it comes
Uh-huh.
down to for me. So.
Yes, for sure.
So
For
anyway,
sure.
that is awesome. Well, I wanted to talk about your podcast. I don't remember when you started it, but please tell us about your podcast that you started.
Yeah, it's actually coming up on a year, which is kind of
Wow.
blowing my mind. But it's been so fun. And I appreciate you having me on here today too, Celeste. It's been fun to talk to you and catch up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my sister and I decided that we wanted to start a podcast, and it goes back to the music that we were kind of talking about.
Nice.
I can't sing to save my life, but I do appreciate a good gospel song. And so we I don't know, I feel like I went kind of through this during COVID. I kind of just kind of survived a lot. And I realized that I needed Jesus Christ in my life more. And I feel like it's kind of hard to get into that rhythm of him being there and like building that relationship with him. It takes a lot of effort. And it's
Yeah.
hard when you have little kids to put effort into anything
I
besides
know.
like them and your spouse and your home. And so
Yeah.
I started listening to gospel songs. And there are some really amazing gospel songs out there, but there's also some that kind of like over the top, which I feel like some people think of when they think gospel songs. They think like, just hallelujah praise and I don't know. But so my sister and I were like, there are some amazing songs and we wanted to like recommend the songs and talk about the
Oh,
songs. And so we've been doing a podcast and each week we choose a gospel song that we feel like is uplifting and brings in the spirit. And it really has changed my life. The gospel music, it was a way to bring Christ into my life and to have a good relationship with him with not a
wow.
lot of time or not a lot of effort. And so um, we just take a song each week and we recommend one that people can go listen to. And then we talk about it and we talk about Jesus Christ. So it's called All About Him. And it's been so fun. It's been really good for my sister and I. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
Oh no, that's so great. Yeah, thank you for putting all that effort into sharing that because yeah, in these busy times it's like you should put the Lord first, but like what does it look like, at this busy time?
Yeah.
And so it's very inspiring the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you and you putting all your effort into this podcast.
Oh, it's fun. So fun to reconnect with amazing people in my life. So
Yeah.
it's great. It's great. Well, Krishelle, any last advice you'd want to give somebody like in motherhood or school or anything else that you wanted to end with?
Absolutely. Keep listening to good podcasts like this. I feel like it's something that you can put in your, AirPod and you can multitask. And so it's good to have good media. And so that would be the
Yeah.
last thing I say. Keep listening to this podcast and anything else out there that can uplift you without much effort. I think that's probably the last parting words. And actually, one more thing, the last thing I will say, sorry, I talk a lot, but
No, that's great.
the last thing I'll say is that you are doing a good job. If you are listening to this podcast, it's because you care about being a good mom and or a good parent, and you want what's best for your child. And sometimes we forget that and all the mom guilt that we have that we're not perfect or. And so I would say if you are listening to this, then you're trying and you're doing a good job and you're doing way better than you think you're doing. And so hang in there and keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, you almost started my tear ducts going. Okay. Well, thank you. It's
I
so true.
know, I
It's so
know.
true.
No, thank you.
We put so much effort into our day to day, and so we just need someone to say, you're actually doing so great. And it's true. Thanks so much for listening in today. I hope that you got ideas of how to improve your overall well-being and life as a mother. If you have a friend who could use a lift, please share. See you next time.